Before we begin with the story, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It helps us know what kind of content you guys like the most and what we need to improve on. Now let's begin. I've always been fascinated by old legends and local myths, so when I heard about Eldridge Manor, I knew I had to investigate. The stories about this place were bone-chilling. Ghostly apparitions, strange noises, and disappearances. Perfect for my next article, or so I thought. The fog was thick that autumn evening as I approached the manor. The iron gates were rusted and heavy, groaning as I pushed them open. A shiver ran down my spine, but I brushed it off as the chill of the evening air. I took a deep breath, clutching my flashlight and camera tightly, and walked up the overgrown path to the front door. Eldridge Manor loomed above me, its dark windows like empty eyes watching my every move. I hesitated for a moment before pushing the door open. It creaked loudly, the sound echoing through the empty halls. Inside, the air was musty and cold, and the only light came from my flashlight. The foyer was vast, with a grand staircase leading to the upper floors. Cobwebs hung from the chandelier, and dust covered every surface. I snapped a few photos, the flash briefly illuminating the room. My footsteps echoed as I made my way through the house, each room more dilapidated than the last. I paused in the drawing room, which still had remnants of its former grandeur. Faded portraits hung on the walls, their eyes seeming to follow me. A cold draft brushed past me, and I shivered again. That's when I heard it. A soft whisper, almost too faint to catch. I spun around, but there was no one there. "Get a grip, Lena," I muttered to myself, but my heart was racing. I tried to focus on my work, taking more photos and jotting down notes, but the whispers continued, growing louder and more insistent. They seemed to be coming from the direction of the library. The library was just as eerie as the rest of the house, with towering shelves filled with dusty books. A large fireplace dominated one wall, and an old armchair sat in front of it. The whispers were louder here, almost as if they were surrounding me. I felt a cold hand brush against my neck, and I yelped, spinning around. Again, there was no one there, but the air felt heavy, oppressive. I decided to leave, but as I turned to go, the library door slammed shut with a deafening bang. My flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Panic set in, and I rushed to the door, pulling at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "Let me out!" I shouted, banging on the door. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening now. I could make out words, fragments of sentences. "Help us. Trapped. Can't leave." Tears pricked at my eyes as I realized I was not alone. The ghosts of Eldridge Manor were real, and they were all around me. I backed away from the door, my mind racing. I had to find another way out. That's when I noticed the portrait above the fireplace. It was of a woman, her eyes sad and haunting. She seemed familiar, almost as if she was trying to tell me something. I stepped closer, and my flashlight flickered again, illuminating a small inscription at the bottom of the portrait. Lady Eleanor Eldridge, 1823-1867. May her soul find peace. A sudden gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing my flashlight. I was plunged into darkness, the whispers now a cacophony of voices. I fumbled for my matches, lighting one and holding it up to the portrait. The woman's eyes seemed to bore into me, and I felt a sudden connection, a sense of understanding. "Lady Eleanor," I whispered. "What happened to you?" The room grew colder, and the whispers seemed to coalesce into a single voice. "Trapped. By him. Release us." I felt a cold hand on my shoulder and turned to see a ghostly figure, pale and translucent. It was Lady Eleanor. Her eyes were filled with sorrow and desperation. "Please," she whispered, "help us find peace." My mind raced as I tried to think of how to help. The legend mentioned that the manor's original owner, Lord Eldridge, had dabbled in dark rituals. Perhaps that was the key. I needed to find his study, where he supposedly performed his rituals. With Lady Eleanor's ghost guiding me, I made my way through the dark halls to a hidden door behind the grand staircase. The study was filled with ancient tomes and strange symbols drawn on the walls. In the center of the room was an altar, with a dusty old book resting on it. I opened the book, flipping through the pages until I found what I was looking for, a ritual to banish spirits and break curses. I read the incantation aloud, my voice trembling. As I finished, A gust of wind blew through the room, and the symbols on the walls glowed with an eerie light. The whispers grew louder, then suddenly stopped. A sense of calm washed over me, and I knew the spirits were finally at peace. Lady Eleanor's ghost appeared before me one last time, a look of gratitude on her face. "Thank you," she whispered before fading away. I left Eldridge Manor that night, the fog lifting as I stepped outside. The air felt, just as I thought the ordeal was over, a low growl echoed through the room, chilling me to the bone. I turned to see a pair of glowing eyes in the darkness. My heart raced as a strange, hulking figure emerged from the shadows. It had the body of a man, but its face was twisted and monstrous, with sharp teeth and claws. I stumbled back, knocking over a stack of old books. The creature lunged at me, its claws narrowly missing my arm. I scrambled to my feet and dashed out of the study, slamming the door behind me. My mind raced as I tried to comprehend what I had just seen. Was this the true horror of Eldridge Manor? I ran through the dark corridors, the creature's heavy footsteps echoing behind me. I could hear its growls growing louder, more feral. I needed to find a way out before it caught up to me. My flashlight flickered, threatening to die, and I cursed under my breath. I reached the grand staircase, my eyes darting around for an escape route. The front door was my only option. I bolted down the stairs, the creature's growls growing ever closer. Just as I reached the bottom, the creature leaped from the shadows, knocking me to the ground. Its foul breath washed over me as it pinned me down, its eyes filled with a malevolent hunger. I struggled, my hand reaching for anything to defend myself. My fingers brushed against the broken leg of a chair, and I swung it with all my might, striking the creature's head. It howled in pain, staggering back. I took the opportunity to escape, sprinting towards the front door. My hands fumbled with the locks, my heart pounding in my chest. Finally, the door swung open, and I burst out into the night. The fog had lifted, revealing a clear path to the gates. I didn't look back as I ran, my breath ragged and my legs burning. The creature's roars echoed through the night, but I didn't stop until I reached the gates. I pushed them open and stumbled out onto the road, collapsing in exhaustion. The next morning, the townsfolk found me lying by the side of the road, babbling about the horrors of Eldridge Manor. They didn't believe my story, of course. They said I must have let my imagination get the better of me. But I knew the truth. The manor was haunted, not just by ghosts, but by something far more sinister. I left Ravenswood that day, vowing never to return. Some stories are better left untold, some mysteries left unsolved. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that the creature was still out there, lurking in the shadows of Eldridge Manor, waiting for its next victim. And I knew one thing for certain. The horrors of that night would haunt me for the rest of my life.